she revealed changes everything. This isn't just another celebrity breakup rumor. This isn't just Super Bowl side-eye or social media drama. According to reports circulating close to her circle, this is about patterns, cycles, and a promise she made to herself after walking away from years of public heartbreak. Fans are shocked because the whispers coming out now suggest Cardi didn't just leave Stefon Diggs over one incident. Insiders claim she realized she was standing at the edge of a familiar storm, one that looked eerily similar to the chaos she endured before. Emotions reportedly ran high, friends allegedly stepped in, and behind closed doors, conversations got intense. The question everyone is asking is simple. Did Cardi B recognize the same warning signs from her past and decide she would never relive that chapter again? Because if these reports are true, this wasn't a sudden decision. This was a calculated, powerful exit. And what she said about refusing to repeat the Offset cycle has the entire entertainment world holding its breath. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was nothing like the calm confidence Cardi B was showing on stage. While she was performing in front of sold-out crowds, smiling, glowing, and telling fans to protect their peace, people close to her were quietly watching a different story unfold. According to reports circulating among insiders, the tension had been building for weeks before anything went public. What looked like a sudden split was allegedly the result of multiple uncomfortable moments that kept stacking up until Cardi could no longer ignore what she was feeling. Sources claim that Cardi had been trying to convince herself that this relationship was different. After everything she went through with Offset, she reportedly promised herself that she would never allow disrespect to become normal again. Friends say she would often repeat, "I am not going back to that version of me." But as time passed, subtle signs began to surface. It was not one explosive fight. It was not one dramatic betrayal. It was a pattern that felt strangely familiar. According to people close to the situation, Cardi started noticing inconsistencies in Stefon Diggs' behavior. There were late-night phone calls that felt secretive, sudden changes in tone when certain topics came up, moments where she allegedly felt like she was competing for attention instead of being prioritized. Fans are shocked because from the outside, everything looked glamorous and smooth, but insiders suggest emotions ran high behind the scenes. One close friend reportedly revealed that Cardi confided in her saying, "I worked too hard to rebuild myself just to feel anxious again." That sentence alone has fueled speculation that the issue was deeper than public appearances. The alleged tension reportedly escalated around high-profile events where multiple people connected to Stefon were present. Even though nothing concrete was confirmed, the environment apparently made Cardi uncomfortable, and what hurt more, according to these reports, was the feeling that her discomfort was not fully acknowledged. There are whispers that during one private dinner, Cardi confronted Stefon in a calm but firm tone. "I need clarity," she allegedly said. "I am not asking for perfection, I am asking for respect." Insiders claim the conversation did not turn explosive, but it was intense. Stefon reportedly reassured her, insisting that everything was being misunderstood and that outside noise was creating unnecessary drama. But those reassurances, according to sources, did not settle the unease she felt. Family members were also reportedly concerned. One relative allegedly told her, "Peace should not feel like a negotiation." That line has been repeated across fan forums, with many supporters praising Cardi for being self-aware enough to listen. The family was left divided in their opinions at first. Some believed she should give the relationship more time, arguing that blended situations can be complicated. Others felt strongly that early discomfort is a warning sign, not something to push through. Meanwhile, Stefon was reportedly frustrated by the speculation swirling online. Insiders say he felt misunderstood and cornered by narratives that painted him in a negative light. During one heated exchange, he allegedly told Cardi, "Why does everything have to connect back to your past?" And that question, according to sources, hit a nerve. Because the truth is, her past shaped her boundaries, and those boundaries were no longer flexible. Friends say Cardi had been doing a lot of quiet reflection. After her public separation from Offset, she spent months focusing
on healing. Therapy, self-work, motherhood, and music became her priority. She reportedly told people she did not want love to feel chaotic anymore. So when moments of confusion started creeping in, it triggered memories she thought she had moved beyond. The turning point, as insiders describe it, was not dramatic in the way fans might expect. It was subtle but powerful. Cardi allegedly realized that she was adjusting herself again, softening questions, downplaying discomfort, convincing herself she was overthinking. And that realization reportedly scared her more than any rumor could, because it meant she was drifting toward an old version of herself she worked hard to outgrow. According to reports, one quiet night after a public event, Cardi returned to her hotel room and sat alone reflecting. There was no screaming, no spectacle, just silence and thought. She allegedly looked at her phone, saw the flood of speculation online, and instead of reacting, she asked herself one question: does this feel safe for my spirit? Sources claim the answer came quickly. Fans are shocked at how composed she has remained publicly. No messy posts, no live stream breakdowns, just subtle messages about self-respect and protecting energy. Insiders say that restraint was intentional. She reportedly wanted to be sure of her decision before saying anything. She did not want to speak from hurt. She wanted to speak from clarity. In private, conversations between the two allegedly grew more serious. Stefon, according to reports, tried to reassure her that comparisons to Offset were unfair. He reportedly said, "I am not him." And while that may be true, Cardi allegedly responded with something telling: "It is not about who you are, it is about how I feel." That distinction, insiders say, was the moment it became clear she was prioritizing emotional truth over public perception. Emotions ran high during their final discussions. There were reportedly moments of sadness, moments of frustration, and even quiet understanding. Friends claim there was no explosive ending, just a firm decision. Cardi allegedly expressed that she could not continue if she felt even a shadow of the cycle she once endured. She refused to normalize discomfort for the sake of companionship. Supporters online have been divided. Some believe she moved too fast into the relationship. Others argue that recognizing a pattern early is growth, not failure. Either way, the narrative forming around her decision is powerful. She did not wait for undeniable proof of wrongdoing. She did not stay until the situation became unbearable. She reportedly chose to step away at the first strong signal that her peace was at risk. What makes this story resonate is the emotional conflict at its center. This was not about revenge, not about humiliation. It was about a woman who once stayed too long, deciding she would not do it again. Insiders insist that Cardi's main concern was not public image but internal alignment. If something felt off, she was no longer willing to silence that instinct. And as rumors continue to circulate, one thing seems consistent across every source. Cardi B made a choice rooted in self-preservation. Not because everything was proven, not because the world demanded it, but because she recognized that even the smallest echo of a painful pattern was enough to remind her that some chapters are not meant to be rewritten. Behind closed doors, the energy was nothing like the polished images fans were seeing online. While she was lighting up arenas and smiling for cameras, people close to Cardi say the atmosphere around her relationship had quietly shifted. According to circulating reports, tension had been building for weeks before anyone outside her circle noticed anything unusual. What looked like a sudden split was allegedly the result of repeated moments that left her questioning whether she was slowly stepping back into a familiar storm. Insiders claim Cardi had been determined from the beginning not to repeat old mistakes. After everything she endured publicly in her previous marriage, she reportedly made a promise to herself that she would never normalize disrespect again. Friends say she often spoke about growth, about refusing to shrink herself just to keep a relationship comfortable. But as the months passed, subtle discomfort reportedly began to surface in ways she could not ignore. Sources suggest there were small signs at first. Missed calls returned hours later with vague explanations, public interactions that felt slightly off, moments at events where she allegedly felt like she was sharing emotional space instead of being fully prioritized. Nothing dramatic enough to spark headlines at the time, but enough to create a quiet unease. Fans are shocked because from the outside everything seemed glamorous and smooth, yet insiders described emotions running high in private. One close friend reportedly shared that Cardi confided late one evening, saying,
She hated feeling anxious over simple things again. She allegedly admitted that she worked too hard to rebuild her confidence to allow confusion to creep back in. That statement alone has fueled online discussions, suggesting this was less about a single event and more about internal alarms going off. The situation reportedly intensified around high-profile appearances where multiple people connected to Stefon were present in overlapping spaces. Although no confirmed wrongdoing surfaced, the environment allegedly made Cardi uncomfortable. According to sources, what hurt most was not just the situation itself, but the feeling that her discomfort was being minimized. Insiders claim she expressed that reassurance without action felt empty. There are whispers that during one private dinner conversation, Cardi addressed her concerns directly. She allegedly said she was not accusing anyone of betrayal, but needed clarity and transparency. Stefon reportedly responded that public narratives were exaggerating everything and insisted that there was nothing to worry about. However, according to those familiar with the exchange, his reassurance did not erase the unease she felt internally. Family reactions reportedly varied. Some relatives encouraged patience, suggesting complicated histories take time to untangle. Others were more protective, warning her that early warning signs should not be dismissed. The family was left divided in quiet debates about whether she was overthinking or simply evolving. Fans online echoed that split, with some urging her to give the relationship more time and others praising her for setting boundaries early. According to insiders, Cardi began reflecting deeply on her own behavior. She reportedly noticed herself softening questions, convincing herself she was overreacting, and avoiding conflict to maintain harmony. That realization, sources say, unsettled her more than any rumor circulating online, because it reminded her of how easily she once excused patterns that later caused public heartbreak. In one reported late-night conversation, Stefon allegedly asked why everything had to be compared to her past. That comment, insiders claim, triggered an honest response. Cardi reportedly said it was not about comparison, but about protection. She allegedly explained that once someone has experienced public humiliation and emotional instability, small shifts feel louder. That conversation was described as intense but not explosive, filled with emotion rather than anger. Friends say Cardi was not looking for a dramatic exit. She reportedly wanted reassurance through consistent behavior, not just words. When that consistency did not fully materialize, her internal conflict grew stronger. She allegedly told one confidant that peace should not require constant convincing. That sentiment has resonated strongly with supporters, who believe her decision was rooted in self-awareness rather than impulse. As rumors continued spreading online, Stefon was reportedly frustrated by the narratives forming around him. Insiders suggest he felt misrepresented and believed outside voices were influencing Cardi's perspective. During one emotional exchange, he allegedly insisted he was being unfairly judged. Cardi, according to sources, responded calmly that her feelings were valid regardless of public opinion. The turning point reportedly came during a quiet moment after a major public event. Instead of reacting immediately, Cardi allegedly retreated into reflection. She is said to have asked herself whether she felt secure or unsettled. Insiders claim the answer was clear enough for her to understand that staying would mean negotiating her boundaries again, and that was something she promised herself she would never do. Fans are shocked at how composed she has remained publicly. No dramatic live streams, no explosive accusations, just subtle messages about choosing peace and protecting energy. Sources say this silence was intentional. She reportedly did not want to speak from raw emotion. She wanted clarity before making any final statement. By the time their final discussions happened, insiders say emotions ran high but remained controlled. There was reported sadness in the room, frustration in their voices, and an understanding that something had shifted beyond repair. Cardi allegedly expressed that she could not continue if she felt even a shadow of repeating a painful pattern. Stefon reportedly maintained that he had no harmful intentions, but intention alone was not enough to change how she felt. Supporters online continue debating whether she moved too fast into the relationship or whether recognizing discomfort early is a sign of growth. Either way, the story circulating suggests this was not about revenge or public embarrassment. It was about a woman who once endured a long cycle, deciding she would not re-enter any version of it again. What makes the situation compelling is the emotional conflict at its
center. Cardi reportedly did not wait for undeniable proof of betrayal. She did not stay until things collapsed dramatically. According to insiders, she chose to walk away the moment she realized she was beginning to silence herself again. And for many fans, that decision speaks louder than any headline could. But behind that quiet strength, insiders say the emotional weight of walking away was far from simple. According to those close to the situation, once Cardi made up her mind internally, the real tension began. Because recognizing a pattern is one thing, ending something before it fully collapses is another. Sources claim the days following her private realization were filled with long conversations, some calm, some heavy, some stretching late into the night. Stefon reportedly sensed the shift immediately. Insiders say he began asking direct questions, trying to understand whether outside voices were influencing her thinking. He allegedly told her, "Don't let the internet break us." But Cardi reportedly responded with something that left him quiet. She allegedly said, "This isn't about the internet. This is about how I feel when the noise fades." That statement, according to people familiar with the exchange, changed the tone of everything. Because if the issue is internal rather than external, there was no villain to blame publicly. There was no clear accusation to argue against. It was about comfort, safety, and emotional alignment. Fans are shocked at how mature the alleged conversations were. No screaming matches, no dramatic scenes thrown into the street. Insiders say emotions ran high, but both of them tried to remain composed. Stefon reportedly reminded her of their good moments. He allegedly pointed to the trips, the laughter, the private memories the public never saw. And Cardi, according to sources, acknowledged those memories. But she also reportedly said good moments do not cancel out persistent discomfort. Friends in her circle allegedly became more vocal as the situation intensified. One confidant reportedly asked her a simple but powerful question. If this were happening to someone you love, what advice would you give them? That question reportedly lingered with Cardi longer than any online rumor. Because deep down, she knew what her answer would be. At the same time, insiders suggest Stefon felt blindsided by how quickly her clarity solidified. He allegedly believed they were navigating normal growing pains. During one reportedly emotional exchange, he is said to have told her, "Relationships take work. You can't leave every time something feels hard." Cardi's response, according to sources, was calm but firm. She allegedly said, "Hard and harmful are not the same thing." That distinction reportedly created a quiet pause between them. Because while he may have viewed the tension as manageable conflict, she was interpreting it as early warning signs.
Insiders claim Cardi had been journaling during this period, reflecting on what peace genuinely felt like. She reportedly realized that peace did not require constant explanation or repeated reassurance. Meanwhile, the public speculation continued to grow. Fans were dissecting every unfollow, every cryptic lyric, every subtle caption. Stefon was reportedly frustrated by narratives forming without direct statements. Insiders say he felt unfairly painted into a corner. But Cardi, according to reports, chose silence deliberately. She allegedly believed that reacting publicly would shift the focus away from her internal decision and into a messy public debate. Family dynamics reportedly became more intense during this phase. Some relatives encouraged reconciliation, emphasizing communication and compromise. Others reportedly urged her to trust her instincts fully. The family was left divided in their private opinions, creating additional emotional strain. Cardi allegedly felt the weight of everyone's expectations while trying to remain grounded in her own truth. There are also whispers that one pivotal moment occurred during a small gathering where the atmosphere felt subtly uncomfortable again. Nothing explosive happened, according to insiders, but Cardi reportedly sensed a familiar tightness in her chest. Later that night, she allegedly confided in a friend, saying, "I promised myself I would never ignore that feeling again." That sentence reportedly sealed the direction she was leaning toward. Stefon, according to those close to him, struggled with the idea that comparison to her past relationship was influencing her present choices. He reported to mutual friends that he did not want to pay for mistakes he did not make. But insiders suggest Cardi never framed it that way. She allegedly emphasized that it was not about blame. It was about compatibility and emotional security. As the final days approached, conversations reportedly shifted from trying to fix things to
accepting reality. Sources say there was sadness in the air rather than anger. During one particularly emotional discussion, Stefon allegedly asked if there was anything he could do to change her mind. Cardi reportedly paused before answering. She is said to have replied, "I can't unknow what I feel." That moment, according to insiders, carried more weight than any accusation could have, because once someone acknowledges that truth internally, reversing it becomes almost impossible. Emotions ran high, but there was also a sense of reluctant respect between them. Fans online began noticing subtle changes. Cardi's posts focused more on self-reflection. Lyrics hinted out independence and clarity. Supporters flooded comment sections praising her composure. Critics questioned whether she was overanalyzing. But through it all, insiders claim she remained steady. One friend reportedly described her demeanor during this time as calm but resolute. Not devastated, not reckless, simply certain. She allegedly expressed gratitude for the lessons learned rather than bitterness over what did not work. That perspective has sparked intense discussion among fans, who see it as a sign of maturity. As the relationship officially ended, insiders say there were no dramatic social media announcements, no public accusations, just a quiet decision followed by distance. Stefon reportedly respected her choice outwardly, though friends suggest he privately hoped she might reconsider. But Cardi, according to reports, had already crossed an emotional threshold. She allegedly understood that growth sometimes requires leaving before things fully unravel. The hardest part, insiders say, was not walking away from him. It was accepting that love alone does not override misalignment. And as the story continues to unfold through whispers and reactions, one thing remains consistent across multiple accounts. Cardi did not leave out of impulse. She did not leave out of pressure. She reportedly left because she recognized the early echoes of a cycle she once endured and decided that even a faint repetition was one too many. And even a faint repetition was one too many. Once that realization settled in, insiders say something shifted inside Cardi that could not be reversed. According to people close to her circle, she stopped debating the decision and started preparing herself emotionally for the aftermath. Because walking away quietly is one thing, living with the public reaction is another. Sources claim that in the days after the separation became real, Cardi focused heavily on her routine: rehearsals, studio sessions, time with her children, long conversations with trusted friends. Fans are shocked at how steady she appeared in public, but insiders insist that steadiness was intentional. She allegedly did not want heartbreak to turn into spectacle. She wanted control over her narrative. Meanwhile, whispers around Stefon reportedly intensified. Some people in his camp allegedly believed the situation was being misunderstood. Others quietly admitted that the overlapping social circles and public optics may have contributed to her discomfort more than they initially realized. Emotions ran high in private discussions among mutual friends who felt caught in the middle. One insider claims that during a small private meeting meant to smooth tensions, an uncomfortable truth surfaced. Someone reportedly said, "Sometimes perception becomes reality." That comment allegedly struck a nerve, because even if nothing dramatic had happened, the perception of instability was enough to shake Cardi's sense of security.
There are also reports that Cardi had one final heart-to-heart conversation before fully stepping back. According to sources, she calmly explained that her decision was not fueled by rage or revenge. She allegedly told Stefon that she was protecting the version of herself she worked hard to rebuild. "I fought to become this calm," she reportedly said. "I won't lose it again." That statement, insiders say, created a heavy silence between them. Stefon reportedly asked whether there was any path forward at all. Cardi allegedly answered honestly that trust is not just about betrayal. It is about feeling emotionally anchored, and if that anchor feels loose, staying becomes a gamble. Fans online began reacting intensely as subtle clues surfaced. Unfollows were analyzed, lyrics were decoded, interviews were dissected frame by frame. Supporters flooded social media with praise, calling her strong and evolved. Critics questioned whether she was too guarded now. The debate grew louder, but insiders claim Cardi remained detached from the noise. Family members reportedly had another round of emotional conversations once the split became official. The family was left divided again, some grieving the potential future that would not happen, others relieved that she chose clarity early. One relative allegedly said, "Better a quiet ending than a loud disaster."
Sentiment echoed through her inner circle. Stefon, according to reports, struggled privately with the finality of her tone. Friends say he believed there was still space for conversation, still room to repair misunderstandings. But Cardi's calm certainty reportedly made it clear that she was no longer negotiating with doubt. She had already made peace with her choice. There were moments, insiders say, where sadness surfaced unexpectedly. During one studio session, Cardi reportedly paused mid-recording and reflected on how quickly life can shift. She allegedly admitted that part of her wished the timing had been different, but she also reaffirmed that alignment matters more than timing. Emotions ran high again when mutual acquaintances attempted to bridge communication one last time. According to sources, the conversation was respectful but conclusive. Cardi reiterated that this was not about proving anyone wrong. It was about honoring her own emotional signals. Stefon reportedly expressed disappointment, but acknowledged her honesty. Fans are shocked by how differently this situation unfolded compared to her past public breakups. There were no explosive live videos, no cryptic rants, no public accusations. Insiders suggest that growth changed her approach. She allegedly learned that closure does not require chaos. Behind the scenes, close friends reportedly praised her restraint. One confidant allegedly told her, "This is what breaking a cycle looks like." That phrase has since become a talking point among supporters who view her decision as symbolic rather than impulsive. At the same time, there were subtle moments of vulnerability. Insiders claim Cardi questioned herself briefly, wondering if she was overcorrecting because of past trauma. During one emotional conversation, she reportedly asked a friend, "What if I am too cautious now?" The friend allegedly replied, "Caution is not fear, it is wisdom." That reassurance reportedly grounded her further, because while love invites risk, repeating pain invites regret. Cardi allegedly decided she would rather be temporarily misunderstood than permanently unsettled. Publicly, her focus shifted toward empowerment themes. Interviews hinted at self-respect without naming anyone directly. Performances carried an energy of independence that fans immediately noticed. Supporters described her as glowing differently, not because of anger, but because of alignment. Stefon's circle reportedly maintained that he respected her decision even if he disagreed with it. Insiders say he did not want the situation to escalate into public mudslinging. That mutual restraint may be the reason the narrative remains layered rather than explosive. As days turned into weeks, the emotional dust began to settle. Cardi reportedly expressed relief more than heartbreak. She allegedly told a friend that clarity feels lighter than confusion, and that clarity, once found, is not something she is willing to trade for companionship. The story, however, continues to ripple outward. Fans keep debating whether this was caution or overcorrection. Some argue that healing can make someone hyper-aware. Others believe awareness is exactly what prevents repeating history. The conversation remains divided, but one detail keeps resurfacing in insider accounts. Cardi did not wait for proof of disaster. She did not stay until things collapsed publicly. She reportedly chose to exit when she sensed emotional instability creeping in. And for someone who once endured years of public turbulence, that early exit speaks volumes. In the end, what resonates most through every whispered account is not scandal, it is self-preservation. According to those close to her, Cardi walked away not because she lacked love, but because she valued peace more. And that choice, quiet yet firm, continues to send shockwaves through fans who never expected the story to unfold this way. And that choice, quiet yet firm, continues to send shockwaves through fans who never expected the story to unfold this way. As the weeks passed and the noise online refused to slow down, insiders say Cardi became even more grounded in her reasoning. According to people close to her, distance only confirmed what she already knew. Without the constant emotional back and forth, she reportedly felt lighter, clearer, more herself.
Sources claim that one of the most defining realizations came when she noticed what was no longer present in her daily life. No second guessing, no scanning social media for hidden meanings, no wondering whether she was overreacting. That absence of tension reportedly felt more powerful than any romantic high she had experienced during the relationship. Friends say she described it as emotional quiet. Meanwhile, conversations within Stefon's circle allegedly shifted from confusion to acceptance. Insiders suggest that while he initially hoped time apart might soften her stance, he gradually recognized that her decision was not
impulsive, it was deliberate. One source claims he told a friend, "She already decided in her heart before I realized it." That acknowledgement, if true, speaks to how certain she had become. Fans are shocked at how the narrative evolved from dramatic speculation to something more reflective. What many expected to become messy never did. Instead of public accusations, there were subtle acknowledgments. Instead of chaotic breakdowns, there was measured silence. Emotions ran high behind the scenes, but outwardly both appeared controlled. There are whispers that during a final indirect exchange through mutual friends, Cardi reiterated that she held no hatred. According to reports, she simply believed that repeating emotional uncertainty would eventually lead to something louder and more painful. She allegedly said she would rather close the door gently now than slam it later under worse circumstances. Family reactions reportedly settled as well. Those who were initially divided began to see her composure as confirmation. One relative allegedly admitted, "She looks calmer now." That observation carried weight, because for someone whose past relationships unfolded in very public storms, calmness itself became evidence of growth. Stefon, according to insiders, focused on redirecting his attention to his own responsibilities. While some fans attempted to spark rivalry narratives online, sources claim there was no dramatic retaliation from either side. That restraint may have disappointed those craving scandal, but it reinforced the idea that this split was rooted in personal boundaries rather than explosive betrayal. Behind the scenes, Cardi reportedly had deeper conversations about why certain patterns attract her. Friends say she did not frame herself as a victim. Instead, she allegedly examined her own timeline. Did she move too quickly? Did she ignore early signals because she wanted a fairy tale ending after heartbreak? Those questions, insiders say, were asked without self-punishment, only curiosity. One confidant reportedly described her mindset as evolved but realistic. She allegedly acknowledged that healing is not a straight line. Sometimes growth means recognizing discomfort earlier than before. That recognition does not mean the relationship was entirely wrong. It simply means it was not aligned long-term. Fans continue to debate whether comparisons to her past were inevitable. Some argue that once someone has experienced repeated public turmoil, even small warning signs feel amplified. Others believe that heightened awareness is exactly what protects future peace. The family was left divided in earlier stages, but now even skeptics reportedly respect her conviction. There were moments of reflection that insiders describe as bittersweet. During one quiet evening after a performance, Cardi allegedly told a close friend that love should not feel like a test. She reportedly said she is done proving endurance. That statement has resonated widely with supporters who view it as symbolic of her transformation. Emotions ran high again when online commentators attempted to revive rumors, suggesting hidden details that neither party confirmed. According to sources, Cardi refused to engage. She allegedly believes that overexpending invites distortion. Instead, she let her silence speak. As time created space, clarity reportedly deepened. Insiders claim Cardi realized that the hardest part of breaking a cycle is not leaving someone else. It is trusting yourself enough to walk away before chaos erupts. That trust, once strengthened, becomes non-negotiable. Stefon's perspective, according to whispers within his circle, was more complex. Some say he felt misunderstood by the public narrative. Others suggest he eventually accepted that compatibility is not about blame. Sometimes two people can care and still not align emotionally. If those accounts are accurate, the ending was painful but not vindictive. Fans are shocked because this storyline lacked the explosive climax many anticipated. Instead, it unfolded like a quiet revelation. A woman recognized early echoes of discomfort and chose not to relive history. No screaming headlines, no dramatic courtroom battles, just a boundary drawn firmly. Behind the scenes, Cardi reportedly poured energy into her work. New music carried undertones of independence. Performances radiated self-assurance. Supporters noticed a shift that felt authentic rather than performative. She allegedly told one friend that clarity tastes better than temporary romance. The broader conversation now centers on growth. Can someone evolve enough to leave before destruction? Can love exist without requiring endurance of instability? These questions swirl among fans, keeping the story alive even without dramatic updates. What remains consistent across insider accounts is that Cardi did not leave because she was forced to. She left because she recognized something subtle yet significant. The same
emotional patterns she once tolerated were beginning to echo again, and even if they were faint, they were loud enough for her. In the end, the narrative is less about scandal and more about self-awareness. Cardi reportedly chose peace before proof of disaster. She valued internal calm over external validation. And whether fans agree with her timing or not, one thing feels undeniable. She refused to repeat the cycle. So now the question is not whether Cardi B made the right decision. The real question is what you would have done in her place. Because if these reports are accurate, this was never about one night, one rumor, or one headline. This was about recognizing a familiar emotional pattern before it turned into public chaos. It was about choosing clarity over confusion, peace over pressure, and walking away before history had the chance to repeat itself. Fans are still divided. Some believe she moved too cautiously. Others believe this is exactly what growth looks like. But one thing is certain. This story has sparked a bigger conversation about boundaries, healing, and knowing when enough is enough. Emotions ran high, opinions clashed, and the family was left divided at first. Yet through it all, Cardi appears steady in her choice. So what do you think? Did she protect her peace at the right time, or did she walk away too soon? Do you believe early warning signs should always be trusted, or do relationships deserve more time to breathe? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is far from over. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the drama, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next explosive breakdown. Your support keeps these stories coming, and your voice matters in every debate. Tell us where you stand. Was this growth, or was this fear? Let's talk about it.
Wait a minute, because what's happening behind the scenes right now has fans completely shaken. After weeks of silence, after cryptic posts, subtle unfollows, and that icy done message that sent the internet into meltdown mode, Cardi B has finally spoken. And what sources are saying she revealed changes everything. This isn't just another celebrity breakup rumor. This isn't just Super Bowl side-eye or social media drama. According to reports circulating close to her circle, this is about patterns, cycles, and a promise she made to herself after walking away from years of public heartbreak. Fans are shocked because the whispers coming out now suggest Cardi didn't just leave Stefon Diggs over one incident. Insiders claim she realized she was standing at the edge of a familiar storm, one that looked eerily similar to the chaos she endured before. Emotions reportedly ran high, friends allegedly stepped in, and behind closed doors, conversations got intense. The question everyone is asking is simple. Did Cardi B recognize the same warning signs from her past and decide she would never relive that chapter again? Because if these reports are true, this wasn't a sudden decision. This was a calculated, powerful exit. And what she said about refusing to repeat the offset cycle has the entire entertainment world holding its breath. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was nothing like the calm confidence Cardi B was showing on stage. While she was performing in front of sold-out crowds, smiling, glowing, and telling fans to protect their peace, people close to her were quietly watching a different story unfold. According to reports circulating among insiders, the tension had been building for weeks before anything went public. What looked like a sudden split was allegedly the